All right, welcome everybody. We're a little bit late. Sorry, that is my fault. I was on the wrong link 2 times in a row. wondering where Saul and John were. All right, now I'm in the right one. Thank you, everybody. We've got Saul and John. We want to start off with one that everyone is talking about right now because they just announced it at Next, and that's this whole thing about NAR. The thing that was on the front page of Housing Wire, Inman, everywhere. Saul, John, why is this a big deal and what is it?
Well, so there's lots of stuff, right? Because so NAR has had pretty rough going over the last couple of years, lost a couple of presidents. People had to step into the breach. There's this transparency issue. So it just so happens that this is the normal time of year for the NAR Expo convention. This year, the name of it was NXT. I think that stands for Next, NAR Next. And so a lot of things took place, but the things that we're most interested in, I think, the first thing is the MLS and what took place at the MLS committees. And so I think it's a good opportunity to do a little refresher for everybody. And so, first of all, no, NAR doesn't have an MLS, right? We say that over and over again. NAR doesn't have an MLS, but it sets up rules and guidelines. And if associations that own MLSs follow the rules and guidelines, they're covered by the Arizona Emission Insurance and antitrust insurance. And so they're kind of protected from litigation or the cost of litigation. So NAR puts out these rules. Well, when you have MLS by its very nature is a target for antitrust, because what you have is you've got competitors cooperating. And when you have competitors cooperating, the Department of Justice can, John would say in Hawaii, a little stink eye around that, right?
Collusion.
Collusion, right? They don't like that competitors cooperating with one another. So it's a ready-made target, just the nature of the great things that MLS does. And so NAR has been working to, they use the term de-risk. And one way to de-risk is to kind of remove itself from decisions around MLS. And so they put together a presidential task force, and I think I've got a copy of it right here. And just a lot of work that volunteers put in to come up with, 18 changes to the nobody's ever seen. We always talk about the MLS handbook, and they say,
yeah,
here it is. There is such a thing. Right?
No way. It does exist?
There it is. And so we got some changes, 18 changes. Now, as I looked at it, if you happen to live and practice real estate in California, Georgia, Alabama, or Florida, the major change of these 18 changes really won't affect you. And the major change is around, can somebody who's not a realtor belong to the MLS and get the benefit of the MLS? Well, in California, based on the Paulson decision, Palsson, Marin County Board of Realtors versus Paulson, this decision was May 24th, 1976. And so since 1976 in California, it was deemed a violation of the Cartwright Act, which is California's equivalent of the Sherman Antitrust Act, a violation of the Cartwright Act to require that somebody join your club, the realtor organization, to participate in the MLS, because the MLS is so important. Everybody, if you want to list and sell real estate, you got to belong. And so we got this court decision, this actual decision in California in 1976, and we've lived with that in California since 1976, Paulson decision. And in Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, the Thompson decision, that was 1991. So they've had to live with it since 1991. But legally, the rest of the country hasn't had to deal with it the way we've had to deal with it in these 4 states. So what NAR has done is saying in these 18 points is we NAR are no longer going to support that somebody should have to be a realtor to join the MLS. We'll leave that up to local MLSs to decide.
Where did the pressure come from for this change?
So it has to do with all of these antitrust cases typically go back to NAR's colluding. It's creating, right, through these meetings and competitors meeting and creating rules. And so this was a big decision. This, as NAR kind of steps away from being the decider of MLS policy. And so that's very, very controversial
Yeah,
in
it is.
those states other than the four that I mentioned. Now, other states have voluntarily said, hey, we see the writing on the wall, and they've stepped away from that requirement. But that's few as opposed, that's the exception rather than the rule. So that was a big thing. And you're going to see more people talking about it, more people writing about it. So it's important to have this background. Now, go ahead, John.
I think Jerry just posted a note that Alaska has its own independent MLS, the state of Alaska.
Yeah.
And we also have a lot of local associations that have made their rules change.
Yeah. And so that was probably not around a legal decision, but a voluntary decision that they were able to make. And that's, from where we sit, that's a good thing. So, but here's what it's also done. It's created some confusion. We got a call here at our MLS yesterday, I think, where somebody said, hey, I read I don't have to belong to NAR anymore. And so we'll say, well, you don't have to belong to, if you belong to your local association, you must also belong to your state, and you must also belong to NAR. That's the three-way agreement. That's different.
Yeah.
Right. But you can join the MLS without being a member of
Realtor.
But here's the thing. In California, if you do that, you don't get the forms. Or you pay a lot more for the forms. And so the forms are typically very important. And what we find at our MLS is a very small percentage of people who pay us for access to the MLS are not realtors. They're almost all realtors.
Talk to me about the referral disclosure.
Yeah, so that was interesting. We've been having, matter of fact, who's our friend Summer Gorlick that writes about this, John, about referral fees and disclosure of referral fees. And there really is nothing that says that you have to disclose referral fees. There are some, code of ethics and issues around it, but there was a motion that came to the board of directors of NAR that would require disclosure of referral fees. And it passed like 80% or something. And then it went to, NAR's got an interesting governance structure. It also has something called the delegate body.
Okay.
Certain things not only have to go to the board of directors, they have to go to the delegate body. So the board of directors passed this requirement for disclosure of referral fees, and the delegate body voted it down. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know why. I don't know who proposed it, but that's interesting. And you're hearing and seeing more conversations around that as well.
Yeah, we started hearing the conversation about that during the whole NAR when we started this whole podcast with all three of us. We started saying, well, what about disclosing the referral to the agent? Shouldn't we be doing that and get ahead of this instead of waiting for a lawsuit?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the NAR actually tried to get ahead of it, and one of their governance bodies passed it, and the other governance body didn't. Dude. And so where that leaves us, I'm not sure. I read that in the board of directors were like 80% in favor, and in the delegate body, it was just shy of 2/3, so 66%, and they need 2/3 to pass it there. Why it didn't pass? I mean, we could speculate all day long, but it's just something that you're going to read more about. People are going to have a lot to say about it. Typically, in today's day and age, transparency makes sense. To disclose this sort of thing makes sense.
Are you guys doing it in San Diego, Saul?
No. So again, not through the MLS being an NAR, or could be something that should be maybe in the code of ethics. But there's going to be more talk about it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it become a requirement at some point.
Yeah.
I think that to me, the biggest surprise was that the board of directors voted one way and the delegate body voted the other way.
Well, yeah, that is interesting. Why do you think that is? Any speculation?
So my personal experience with NAR decisions, that there are times when a certain constituency might be harmed by the change in the whatever the rule is. And so sometimes you've already heard people say they'd kick the can down the road.
Yeah, we've seen them could do that forever.
Right? Because they don't want to make a decision that might somehow harm a certain constituency without adequate runway, something. I mean, and I'm just guessing, just be.
I would think that it would be a matter of the delegate body wanted to know that what are the implementation plans? How is this to be made? So it's like kicking it down the road in order to work those out before it can be published. That's probably my guess.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, along the lines of referrals, and I know they're slightly different, but let's talk about Zillow, because Zillow specifically with their it used to be called Flex, now it's called Preferred. Zillow Preferred. With this whole program where if I belong to this program, I have to give now Zillow a 40% referral fee. There might be even a platform fee depending on which program I'm on. And on top of that, they've dictated in the past, based on what other agents have told me, they've pressured agents into pushing them to specific vendors, lender, and other possible vendors that are in their list. Now there's a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit brought to Zillow from Seattle, and one of the attorneys was also one of the attorneys in the big NAR case. Is that the case?
The Armstrong case are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that one.
Well, so first thing is, I think it's amazing that there's a 40% referral fee that people are willing to pay.
Yeah, man. If you control, look, this is why B2C. If we control that, we've been telling agents for years, if we can control the B2C locally, we don't need Zillow. We don't need Realtor.com, right? We've got the ears and eyes of the people we want.
Well, so is 40%, is that up the gross commission dollar?
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is. And dude, on top of that, there's a platform fee for some of the agents that belong to this. That means there's a fee to belong to this because I'm also providing you with Follow-Up Boss and with all the other tech pieces. So not only am I giving you 40%, I'm also paying.
So that in itself is kind of amazing to me, that the leads are worth 40%. And Tristan, I'm going to send you a copy of the litigation itself, Armstrong versus Zillow. So referral fees were just one thing. And then you actually brought this up. I saw you on something where you were talking about the inevitability of this lawsuit, where it seems like, at least based on the lawsuit, I don't know whether this is true or not, where Zillow is providing preferential treatment to agents who push people down there into their loan funnel.
Yeah. Like if you send, this is according to the lawsuit, and more importantly, according to the agents that are part of this program and that have been part of this program, they're saying they are rewarded more better quality leads if they follow this process, which is crazy.
Well, so, and do you have the actual case in front of you, John? Because it seems to me that there's some potential RESPA issues here.
Definitely.
Right? Because we're talking lending. Now Zillow has got to have the best attorneys in the country, I would imagine. So I would think that this is vetted nonetheless, based on the way that I used to practice real estate and the way John rendered his advice as a recovering attorney around this. And Tristan, probably the way you practice real estate, you'd be very careful about receiving some kind of preference for where you push somebody when it comes to loans without disclosure, even with disclosure.
That's tough, man. It's a tough situation, but I have a feeling, and then you can tell me, give me the details, but I have a feeling once we see the end of this, it's going to be a settlement, number one. And number two, in the settlement, they're going to do their best to protect the people, the Zillow Flex, Zillow preferred partners, the agents, because if they don't, nobody will want to sign up for this because there could be a future liability and they won't be covered. That's at least my take, future ending. But
that makes sense.
Yeah. Current, like, what does this look like, John? Do you know what this looks like?
Well, it looks like some strong resistance from the Department of Justice, will come in through the Federal Trade Commission, and then there'll be some enforcement, I think, of the RESPA law. And I agree that Zillow must have an army of lawyers because they are involved with so many real estate lawsuits. This is a big one,
This is a big one.
And this is all. I mean, they're also involved with lawsuits with CoStar over improper, unauthorized use of photos and those type of things. But I do agree that it will probably wind up with a settlement.
Yeah, I put in the lawsuit there. Saul sent it over to me. So there's the lawsuit. Take a look at it. That's one of their. John, did you say 7 earlier? You sent me an email. 7 current lawsuits that they have?
Yeah, I don't think that one was added to the 7. I think it's 8.
8, maybe 8. Okay. And not all of them are class action, right? This one specifically is the class action one. The other ones are not?
Well, you've got Zillow Compass, right?
Zillow Compass, yeah.
Zillow Homes.
Zillow Homes.
And then you got this class action. And then there was the Redfin.
The rental one. The rental one, yeah. And then you have one, I remember an ex-employee as well going against Zillow. Okay. Interesting. I feel like everyone's going to get into a lawsuit nowadays. I think the number one thing everyone needs to invest in as a broker is a great set of attorneys. It's like, what is going on? Dude?
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt that listing and selling real estate is becoming riskier and riskier business.
Okay. So I have a question about this lawsuit, because I haven't talked to anybody about what happens next. Do things really change next, like in your eyes? Like if they settle, they protect all their partners. They're like, okay, everyone, from now on, if you're going to use us, let me disclose. We're going to steer you. Here's what it's going to look like, right? If they settle, if it's proven, whatever. Does it really change anything? Like, won't Rocket and Redfin and everybody else still do the same thing, but with a disclosure in the front of it?
Well, you're probably right. And it's hard to move away from these portals because it seems that sellers insist upon them.
Yeah, well, they have the eyes, man. It's like, if they've got the shiny stuff that the audience wants, why? And then they can monetize it, which is what they're doing. They're, in essence, they've duplicated what Google has done. Let's get the audience. Now let's sell the eyeballs. Now Zillow has done the same thing. Meta, Facebook and Instagram have done the same thing. TikTok has done the same thing. In essence, to a point, all these companies that have an audience have done the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and for the Zillows of the world, they really are, they're in the brokerage business.
Yeah. True.
Without a lot of the hard work that comes from being in the brokerage business. If they're taking 40% off the top, then you're benefiting from the payment. You're in the brokerage business. You're just doing all the marketing to get the eyeballs. And you're right. That's where Zillow started. At Google, once you have the eyeballs, you gain a lot of power.
Dude, exactly. This is why influencers exist because they have the eyeballs.
Well, and think about large language models like ChatGPT, AI, right? They now, a lot of search, I mean, I think we've mentioned this, I don't bother to go to Google anymore. Very seldom.
Yeah.
Because I got to scroll down to get to like page 8 before I get through the ads. And so I'd rather go to ChatGPT and do my search there and get more directed result. And so maybe the AI, different AI models become more dominant in search, and they're getting eyeballs. And how might that start to change this, where people go? That's what it's all about. Where do people go when they go online to look for something?
Well, dude,
we discussed that one last time we met.
Yeah.
We said we would get more information on it. And so I went ahead and did some research on it. By the way, I found out that was the first time I've ever used ChatGPT. Was about a month ago.
Yeah, you told us that.
Saul's been on my back to do it, and it knocked the floor out of me. It was mind-boggling. But I prepared a in-depth article about using
fair use,
using AI, for search, and using copyrighted material that you train your AI to use this copyrighted material. Where is the exemption for fair use come into play? So we don't have time to discuss it now, but if people go to thedataadvocate.com, it's the featured article.
Yeah, I put it up in the chat right now too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that'll cover the issue of fair use, where the question's still open.
Well, yeah. So fair use, I think we need to begin to have a conversation around fair use so that people understand what it is. And then we can look and see how, when you're in the real estate business, how fair use enters into your real estate business. And so just having a basic understanding of fair use, and John and I were having this conversation, a number of different ways. When somebody's got something copyrighted, if you take that information and you use it, there's a degree to which you can use copyrighted information without being slammed with a lawsuit. And it's called fair use. But once you get above this threshold, whatever it is, now you're violating their copyright. And if you do that, there could be legal consequences. And so with AI, it has the capability to go out and gather information from all kinds of places and create an original work. Well, we used to call that research. Right? We do it on 3x5 cards, and we do research, and we write a term paper. Well, now AI can just go out all over and get all this information. And the question is, even though it's an original work, is there enough information that comes from copyrighted sources that might make it a violation of somebody's copyright? And I gave John this example. He said, absolutely. We said, what if there's a famous Beatles song and you then took all of the musical notes that were in that Beatles song, and then somebody else took all those in a song, they wrote a song and it was completely different than that Beatles song, but had all exactly the same notes? Would that be... And the Beatles then sue them. Hey, we were using those notes. And then you just took all those notes and you used it in something, and you might think it's original, but we used all those notes, and I want to hold your hand. And so, right. So a lot of the conversation, I think, will come out of this fair use and fair use doctrine, and why that's important and going to be more important in the future as we integrate AI into search.
Yeah, but what we're noticing, this is a great topic. But what we're noticing is that fair use is being kicked down the road. Because like, hey, let's not talk about it now. Poof. Like kind of like how NAR's plan is. Like, let's not talk about it now, everybody. Let's push it down later. And then they're allowing AI to gather all this information from everywhere and building it so that it gets smarter. And then later, after they have all the information they want, then they'll talk about it.
Well, that's why here at the update, what we're going to do is talk about it before other people do.
That's right. Good point, Saul. Good point. All right. Anything in closing?
I think we pretty much covered what we thought we should cover today.
Yeah, we did
Always
good.
kind of fun to get back together with you and talk about the latest.
You know what, guys? I thought we would run out of stuff to talk about last year. I really did. But I was wrong.
That's like Thomas Duell. This is probably a myth, but I remember this. Thomas Duell was like the guy who was in charge of the patent office. He recommended that they close the patent office because he thought this is like in 1890 or something. Everything that can be invented has been invented.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Now I have to look it up. Thanks, Saul. Appreciate that. John, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be
See
here.
you next time.
Everyone else, thank you so much. Have an awesome day.